So the first rule is that they aggressively monitor trends and latch onto emerging tech, regardless of maturity, to signal visionary leadership. So AI is probably a good example of that, and certainly agentic AI, recently. So in other words, they see a rise in the trends around a particular, technology discipline, and that occurs in the zeitgeist, in other words, out there in public. And they go, okay, well, I've seen that more than 3 or 4 times in the same day. This may be something to it. And they figure out and strategize, as to whether or not it's a trend or not that's going to reap rewards. In other words, they're going to get some kind of revenue out of this trend. And then they start aligning some marketing dollars. They start aligning messaging. They start aligning some of the thought leadership work that they're doing. In other words, spending real money on creating the image or creating the perception that not only are they leading the space, but they were the innovators in the space, when that typically wasn't true. So very few times, I think, the big consulting firms have kind of innovated in the space. In other words, creating, net new tech trends, so to speak. Those typically come from other areas, certainly universities and, some of the startups out there that are, a little bit more risk takers. And then once they created, the larger players, including the technology companies and certainly the big consulting companies, adopt it as their own, claim ownership of it, and make it seem like that's going to be so. And they're really good at it. And I've watched, and of course I participated in these kinds of activities over the years. I was kind of, taken back by how effective they are. But also I understand that they may be misleading sometimes in you're assuming that a particular organization was the net new innovators of a particular technology discipline when that wasn't the case.